Hey, come see us on tour. I'll be in Davenport, Iowa, Las Vegas, Nevada, Chicago, Illinois, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Hey, everybody, we have special guest. Candace Owens is with us. She's a Washington, D.C.-based author, activist, political commentator, and the host of the Candace Owens Show. She is the founder of the national #Blexit movement and author of Blackout, How Black America Can Make Its Second Escape from the Democrat Plantation. From 2021 until this past March, she also co-hosted Candace, a political talk show for the Daily Wire. Welcome to the show for the first time, Candace Owens.
Thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I wanted to show you this. Bill Maher, we go after him quite often on this show for his what we call horrible liberal takes.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed.
And so he had on Andrew Cuomo. And I don't know if this is going to surprise the audience, but they're going to agree with us here at this show that these prosecutions of Trump are politically motivated and stupid. So
what's his angle here?
Let me just play it for you, and then you get your reaction.
The Attorney General's case in New York, frankly, should have never been brought. And if his name was not Donald Trump, and if he wasn't running for president, I'm the former AG in New York, I'm telling you that case would have never been brought. And that's what is offensive to people. And it should be, because if there's anything left, it's belief in the justice system.
We should have just heard the one about trying to overthrow the government of the United States. That's the main thing. He tried to overthrow the government of the United States.
That's right.
And we're not gonna hear that.
Okay, so Bill Maher is maybe the dumbest guy still on television, second to Chris Cuomo.
You've gone toe-to-toe with Chris Cuomo, right?
This is unbelievable. Why do you think that they're not charging Donald Trump with trying to overthrow the government? Because he sent a bunch of people without guns to overthrow the government?
And also didn't do that?
And also they didn't do that. But anyway, Candace, what is it? So here's Andrew Cuomo admitting that case should have never been brought, and the only reason it was brought was because it was Donald Trump. He's admitting they're doing political prosecutions. Is that what you hear him saying?
That is what I hear him saying, but it's sort of something that you don't take as legitimate, because he was very much a part of the system that was corrupt in New York for a very long time, until he was sort of unceremoniously kicked out of the Democrat cool club. That's my viewpoint. And so now it's easy to say it once they've pushed you aside, and you kind of see him doing this and his brother's doing this as well. Chris Cuomo kind of doing the tours and being like, I don't think that people should have not used ivermectin. it just seems a little bit too little, too late is how I would respond to it. Regarding Bill Maher, I actually did his show in LA last year, and I am telling you, he can be very funny. He can be warm. When it comes to Trump, there is a rabid anger, as if the two of them had like high school beef. Like you can't even understand it. It's like ancestral beef that he has with Donald Trump. Like I don't understand it. He genuinely has Trump derangement syndrome. He wants him to be prosecuted, as you hear him saying, as if he did something and told people to storm the Capitol building and commit crimes. So I don't understand what his obsessive anger is over Trump. It's nice to hear them say it. I just don't think it means much, if I'm being honest.
He definitely has Trump derangement syndrome. I think that didn't Trump threaten to sue him over a joke?
He did try to sue him. That's why.
So that's what happened.
I was going to say, I get why he has it, because he has a grudge against Trump.
Yeah.
I didn't know this. Wait, can you retell the story? Because I don't know if this is mainstream. He had a joke on his show. I used to watch the show a lot, okay? And he had a joke about Trump, because Trump was doing the Obama birth certificate. Remember, that was our conspiracy about Obama?
Yeah, that was the big conspiracy.
Not that, he's a gay guy. Anyway, he goes, I want Trump to prove that his dad's not an orangutan. And he showed an orange orangutan. And so Trump sued him for defamation for that joke. And he had a whole thing of, and I was on Bill Maher's side on it. I'm like, wait, you can't say his dad's an orangutan? Like, it's a joke. It's a Bill Maher show. So that's what I think that grudge is from, I don't know if he personally, and back then he had that great Trump joke about his qualification is he once fought Rosie O'Donnell to a standstill. That's a good line. I don't know who wrote that one.
So I think that's where Bill Maher gets his chip on his shoulder about.
So I'm assuming he lost the lawsuit, or he had to pay him something.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to that lawsuit?
No,
I
I
think
stopped caring about it.
I think it probably got thrown. I don't think there was a settlement.
I didn't think it had merit.
No, I don't think it had merit. I think comedians can make fun of the president.
I agree.
But so you think that Andrew Cuomo is like free to now speak his mind? You don't think he's trying to get back into with the liberal establishment?
Mad about the Me Too.
They're not going to allow him back in. You know, once they Me Too you, that's their way of saying you're done, you've been dismissed. And I think that he partially has a chip on his shoulder about that. And I sense the same thing with Chris Cuomo. They've sort of got a chip on their shoulder because they were, like I said, unceremoniously kicked out of the cool club. And so much of what he's saying now, I think, is just kind of a way for him to feel like he's personally punching back at the same establishment that he was a part of. And then they sort of took him down. And he's not going to go too far because let's not forget, I mean, I lived in New York for 7 years. You know how it works. Once you're a part of those circles, he still wants to get invited to the Montauk parties and the Southampton parties, but he'll give a little bit here and there. And so that's just him giving a little bit of an inch. I wouldn't take it to heart.
And so if he can say that on the Bill Maher show, which is a mainstream fastball down the middle, quote unquote political show, it's an establishment show.
It's got a little Atlantic lately.
And it's so what that tells me is that everyone actually knows that, right? That they're not fooling anybody. So why would Alvin Bragg, why would the people in the Democratic Party think this would be a good idea to push this case?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I will say, by the way, speaking to your point, I mean, if he was brave and was saying something meaningful, why did he wait until after the prosecutions to say it? Why didn't he say it during, while the trial was going on? Say, hey, this is absolute baloney. Well, because he still doesn't want to upset the establishment. So he's doing it post and making it seem like, oh, I've always been a good guy. I've always told the truth. I would not have brought that case. And that's a bunch of crap. But yeah, it is interesting. It's hard to see what their end goal is other than to put nonstop pressure on Trump. And this is something that really is remarkable. If you take a seat back, I think when Trump ran in 2016, he actually thought they were just going to go let him be the president when he won. They have kept the pressure, allegations nonstop every minute of every single day since he announced that he was running. And so they are just doing what they have always done, constantly trying to criminalize his presence. And I just take it as a signal that he's not in their club. You know what I mean? And that's a big part of the reason why the American public loves Trump so much is because of the way how harshly he's treated by the same system that they view as corrupt.
Is anybody else shocked that, because Bill Maher seemed genuinely baffled that they didn't go with this amazing case, which you don't think they would have if they could have, Bill?
Right.
But just the 51 intelligence agents, all this bullshit you've seen, I can't believe how innocent Trump must be now, because you couldn't find anything with the whole CIA. You had to make up bullshit with all the intelligence community. Couldn't find a real P tape. That's amazing.
They couldn't. That's the thing that is amazing, and it's why what we've said on this show before. It's why it took so long for them to impeach Trump, because they had to find a crime that he committed that they also weren't guilty of.
Oh, slowing down weapons to Ukraine.
So he slowed down weapons to Ukraine, which is one of the only reasons to vote for Trump, and that night made it a criminal offense.
Yeah,
an impeachable offense.
They didn't get weapons fast enough. Get him out.
So do you think that I was actually shocked to see Bill Maher say why ain't they charging him with the real crime of January 6th?
Bill, think a minute.
How do you think that? So I think that most of the country is now, when Vivek Ramaswamy said it at that Republican debate that was an FBI inside job. Do you think that so what's your feeling? What's your sense? Do you think most of the country is, meaning 51%? Do you think that a majority of Americans are starting to realize that? Because that's what it was.
I think it's going to still take some time for people that were on the far left to accept that reality. I mean, I was saying from day one, you're just not. I lived in DC a couple of blocks from where this went down. There is a camera on every corner. You just are not going to ever make me believe that they dropped off pipe bombs outside of the DNC and the RNC, and they just can't catch this guy. Meanwhile, they were catching grandmas who were within 10 feet of the Capitol building and bringing them in and arresting them. So it very much was very obvious to me that it was an inside job. And I think they have been so severely propagandized because of every day they were just talking to them saying like, we almost lost the country. It was an insurrection. I mean, I had family members that were messaging me asking me if I was okay. And it was bonkers. I have to tell you this because what people forget. So I could have used those texts the entire summer when Black Lives Matter was burning down Washington, D.C. I mean, they were just, you'd walk outside, they were breaking into cars, breaking into apartments. They were boarding up, places where people worked, places of worship. I mean, the place was on fire. You couldn't hear a single sound on the day of the Capitol, and yet they were showing images to make it seem like Washington, D.C. was under siege. So that sort of a stuff, it really works. People's minds get programmed, and it's hard for them to accept that what the media told them and what they believed they watched just wasn't so, that it was a small picture of something else. So I think obviously people that supported Trump from the beginning know that it's crap, but I still think that there are too many people who believe what Bill Maher believes. And listen, they're having their ideas reinforced when he says it. Hey, why didn't we get them for January 6th? Why didn't we get Donald Trump? Full derangement.
Thank you, Governor Cuomo, for setting everyone straight.
And here may be the craziest part of this. Let's listen to Adam Kinzinger. Watch this.
And good for you for January 6th.
Yeah, well, thanks. I didn't cause it, but I was there. No, I think that the weird thing is, though, Hunter Biden, I would also say, was put in jail or was convicted.
Of course.
Because of politics.
Of course.
And unfortunately, that never gets out.
There's a laptop full of his crimes.
With much lower crimes because of politics.
Joe Biden has locked up, the prisons are full of people because they did exactly what Hunter Biden did on that laptop, which is smoke crack with hookers. And not only that, but there's also actual, international crimes that he set up with China and Ukraine and his father and his uncle. Those crimes are on there. Plus, we have not only that, plus the gun crime. Now, they're right in one little sense that this was in a sense, politics are infused into this because they took the lowest of all crimes that he committed on that laptop and tried to convict him of that so they could go, look, we're not partisan. So what would you say to what he just said there?
You took the words right out of my mouth. They picked actually the lowest of his crimes. Like when you go through that laptop, I mean, the things that they should be investigating on the basis of text messages. I remember I shared a text message between Hunter Biden and his parents about what would amount to an incestuous pedophilic affair in their family and how worried he was about this getting out. And Twitter at that time, which was pretty much being run by the state, took it down because they said that it re-victimizes a potential victim of a crime. And it's like, okay, so I'm assuming somebody's going to pick up this baton and talk about these text messages, which are very incriminating about what's going on in that family. Nope, nobody's ever touched it since, spoken about it since. And then I think literally today, the Daily Mail came out and said, hey, by the way, the CIA was involved. Bombshell report. The CIA was involved in censoring the laptop. Oh, bombshell report. Okay, this is not a bombshell report. We all understood the state was involved in censoring this laptop. The idea that they were even trying to tell people that it wasn't real was literally a case study in psychological convincing of people not to believe their own eyes. It's like, this isn't real. What do you mean? It's Hunter Biden and he's smoking crystal meth. I'm watching the video. That's not real. It's Russian disinformation. I mean, they ran that playbook all the way through to the election and people believed it. And there are people, believe it or not, who still believe it, that it was Russian disinformation. They did not. They followed the crucial instruction not to believe their own eyes.
You mentioned Black Lives Matter protests before. Where I didn't see any of your coverage of that. Could you just give us, what was your take on all that whole summer of protests?
No, the summer of love.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
In the summer of love, when I was 9 months pregnant and couldn't walk down the street because people were, I guess, Black people were being told by the media that it was their right to break into places, to steal flat screen TVs, do whatever they wanted because George Floyd had died. And I had my most viral video that I've ever done because it was so weird for me to watch the media, absent any facts, try to convince people that this was just some good guy who was hunted down on the basis of being Black. I ended up doing a documentary on it. Look, it's a sad story. He was a drug addict and drug addiction is always a sad personal story, but this was not about race whatsoever. And the media intentionally withheld different angles from that video. Derek Chauvin should not be in prison. It's actually very sad. If you want to talk about prosecuting something by the media, if you go watch my documentary and see the different angles from when he was quote unquote on his neck, he was actually in a police position that they're told to put people in that's on their, it's basically from where you're sitting. If I do this, it looks like I'm holding the back of my neck, but I'm not. It's actually my upper back. And further, which is even more astonishing, George Floyd asked to be put on the ground. They tried to arrest him peacefully for a very long time. And then he said, I don't want to go in the police cruiser. I don't want to go here. I can't breathe. I also showed his prior arrest where he said the exact same thing. He said, I don't want to do this. I can't breathe. So he was a repeat offender in that city who had used that same language. Even the lie, by the way, that he called out for his mom. They never showed you this. That was his nickname. I want mama. That was his nickname for his girlfriend. He had a Caucasian girlfriend, also ironic, given this was all about race, who testified that was her nickname. And in previous arrests, he had said the same thing. I want mama. I want to call mama. And that was his girlfriend. So there were so many lies that were told. And the thing that was so sinister and evil about it was that it led to full division in our society along racial lines, people hating each other. And the media was complicit in it, right? The truly evil state media, Operation Mockingbird, what they do is what the state wanted this division ahead of an election. And they were willing to use, the story of George Floyd, which is actually a sad story. I am compassionate towards his struggles after having met with his roommates about his drug addiction, to further the divide that they wanted.
Why do you hate black people?
Do you think it's nice? Pelosi thanked him?
I loved that too. Like, I think it's so crazy where they're so angry at you that they just go, well, you're the first black white supremacist. I'm like, yeah, sure. I want to help build a society that I can't live in. That's exactly what I want to do every day. I'm like, how can I just get us back to Jim Crow laws? I would love nothing more. Insane.
So now when you say you have different camera angles on the George, so now I didn't know this. I haven't seen your documentary. I apologize. I should have, because I know, because I know the way they, so when the media reported the Kyle Rittenhouse story, now it got me worked up. I hated Kyle Rittenhouse because he was a white supremacist who brought guns to a Black Lives Matter protest to shoot black people, and he shot 3 black people. Then I watched first of all, I watched the court case, and it turns out he did live in that community. He was a lifeguard in that community. He didn't cross state lines with guns, and he didn't shoot 3 black people. He shot 3 white people.
And they were pedophiles.
And they were all criminals. And the first one was a pedophile. I'm like, well, that's different. That's a different story. And then, of course, you find out that all 3 of those people that he shot were attacking him. The one guy was let out of a loony bin that morning, and he threatened to kill Kyle all day long. And then we know he attacked him because his fingerprints are on the gun barrel. And then when Kyle started running towards the cops, 2 other criminals chased him down and hit him over the head with a skateboard, and another guy pulled a gun on him. And then Kyle shot the guy in the arm with his gun, which I think we should hire Kyle to teach cops how to disarm people. Because if that was a cop, he would have shot him in the face, shot his wife, and shot his dog. But so after that, and then I saw Matt Orfalea did an amazing video, which showed you all this, what really happened.
It wasn't a mystery.
It wasn't. So
it was right on camera.
It was right on camera what had happened. This guy threatening Kyle, all that stuff. And so I completely flipped on that story and then I realized that the reason why, and people are mad at me, they go, why are you defending Kyle Rittenhouse? I'm not defending Kyle Rittenhouse, I'm defending the truth. And why aren't you upset that the corporate media lied to you about a 16-year-old kid so they could divide the country? And
that's what they did with the George Floyd case.
And so now you're telling me the same thing with George Floyd.
Yeah. So they only showed an image of a girl as a bystander. Her name was Darnella Frazier, who had recorded from the front. So if you record something from the front, it looks entirely different. They fought tooth and nail not to release the police cam. If you watch his full arrest, it's stunning. I mean, everything goes away. You realize what likely happened, and his drug levels showed, is they called, obviously the call was about a counterfeit bill, and the police arrived there. They were not hunting him down because he was black. They were literally called to the scene of the crime. He was sitting in the car with his drug dealer, and he likely just ingested all of the fentanyl, right? And he, like I said, he's a repeat offender.
He's also meth. That's in the debunking.
Yeah, he ingested the fentanyl.
So he died of, just so you were clear,
he died of a fentanyl overdose. So he did not die because of anything that Derek Chauvin did. That was what is stunning, that they quite literally, this man is sitting in prison. And I genuinely keep Derek Chauvin in my prayers, because what happened to him was so wrong. So they're trying to arrest him peacefully. All the police officers are like, hey man, why are you acting funny? What's going on? Like, are you good? He's like, I don't want to get in the police cruiser. They put him in the police cruiser. He gets up. He's a big dude. He's really big. And eventually he asks to be put on the ground. There is a police position that they are trained in the academy to subdue someone when they're on the ground. And that is where Derek Chauvin had him. He put his knee on, I don't know what this bone is called, but it's just beneath the neck on the back. And they had that footage, and the state fought for it never to be released. Okay. You can now find that. If you watch the documentary, we showed the entire arrest. And when you see it from the back and they showed it in court, they never showed the court footage either. And they asked the police officers, where would you say from this angle his knee is on? And they were all like, his back. So it was just the angle of her camera. So this has been the biggest lie. I mean, it was the lie heard around the world. And again, it was to divide Americans along race lines before an election.
Well, it's easier for me to say that you hate black people. And,
yeah, I know. It's easier for the media too.
Kurt, you want to say something?
Yeah. So, my girl's from Florida, so she's, I don't want to say white trash, but she knows her way around police arrests with drunkenness and drugs.
Okay. And
she explained to me, and I never heard of this, the Asian cop who's saying, turn that camera off in it, the police precinct, you're supposed to have call an ambulance when a guy's on drugs like that. So that guy was supposed to be, while he's subduing Floyd, that guy's supposed to be getting an ambulance, not telling people not to film it. I don't know if an ambulance showed up, but that's massive negligence on the police's part. But if I had to guess, they're not going to say the Asian guy's at fault when they got a white guy, right? Am I wrong?
No, the Asian guy as well was sentenced. And it was, that was like his first day on the job. It was literally he was literally there to shadow Derek Chauvin. I mean, what has happened to those police officers is a crime. They should all be released. Derek Chauvin died of a drug overdose, as he had been a drug addict for a very long time. He was a drug addict and a criminal. And unfortunately, he met his maker that day because he could not get over his addictions. Now, like I said, I spent time with his roommates. I sat down. They met him in rehab. They talked about his struggles. The media turning him into some sort of an angel who died for the sake of black people it's an absurd lie. It's a dangerous lie. It's a deranged lie. And I just reserve such anger in my heart for people who think that Derek Chauvin or any of those police officers, after you watch the full arrest tape, you walk away and you go, what did these men do wrong? What did they do wrong? And then, yes, telling people to clear out when people started coming around. That's what you're supposed to do, right? They're coming around, they're starting to film. You've got a guy, you're holding him down, you're arresting him. He's been saying he can't breathe since he was standing up, So unless he's going to tell you, hey, I just ingested enough fentanyl to kill a horse, because that's how much fentanyl he ingested, enough fentanyl to kill a horse, you're just thinking this is somebody that's just trying to avoid an arrest. And they keep asking him, dude, why are you acting weird? What's going on? He's standing up and saying, I can't breathe. I'm claustrophobic. I don't want to get into the police cruiser. Put me on the ground. The fact that you don't know these things really shows you how demented and dishonest our corporate media is.
And so do you know what the autopsy's cause of death was?
Yeah.
So they had an autopsy that showed, literally, you got to watch my documentary, that showed that he had enough fentanyl in him to kill a horse. So that's probably, you know what happens when you get fentanyl? I can actually tell you because I had a foot surgery. So they actually get you basically, it makes you stop breathing. That's when it's working. You're supposed to stop breathing. Like, it slows down your breathing. And it's the idea that he took as much as he did, that he even had the ability to take as much as he did and still be alive for as long as he was, is what's shocking.
Well, maybe
he was an addict.
Maybe the Innocence Project will take up the case of Officer Chauvin.
I genuinely hope that somebody does, and I hope that just us talking about it, that people will be outraged about what happened to those police officers. So
I just wanted to play this. I saw your interview with Piers Morgan, who is sharp as a tack. So I just wanted to I want to play this, and then I wanted to ask you a question about it. So here he is making a big admission about that the vaccine, all of a sudden he found out it doesn't stop transmission or contraction, which we knew in 2021 at this show. I knew that in mid-2021, and when I told people, they would get angry at me for telling them.
Mm-hmm. I learned when I caught COVID after getting it. That's how I found out.
So we knew that, and so now he's just figured it out, and he's saying, hey, but he's trying to make it out like that's not a big deal. That's the biggest deal in the world, because if it doesn't stop transmission and contraction, then you have no basis for mandates. You have no basis for excluding people who aren't vaccinated from public life. If it doesn't stop. So if you're vaccinated and you can still transmit it and you can still contract it, then I guess it's, according to the FDA and the CDC, it's still a vaccine, but a lot of people are going to say it's not. But let me play this and get your reaction.
take my one clarification about the ability of a vaccine to prevent transmission as being some great mea culpa that I think...
That's a huge mea culpa, Piers. That's a huge mea culpa. That's a huge mea culpa. Because that means that you let people to go out and to get an experimental vaccine in their arm and encourage them not to listen to independent voices that were saying, hold on. That's a huge mea culpa. People died from the vaccine. So you're talking about people that died from not getting it. There have been scores of people who died from the vaccine. There have been scores of people like my grandfather who got the vaccine and then were dead within 1 year because it led to their dementia suddenly spreading or advancing rather in a way. Stop. I let you.
You do not know that was down to the vaccine, do you?
Okay. First and foremost, they have admitted so much. They lied about the 6 feet social distancing. That just came out 2 weeks ago. And you were on the side of all of these people. So don't pretend that that's a small mea culpa. People died from blood clots pertaining to the vaccines that you were telling them to rush out and get. Okay?
People died
had they have waited and perhaps listened to independent voices who understood that there was some government. No, I let you talk. I let you talk about your mea culpa. Had they have paused and listened to independent voices who have, I think, probably a greater strength when it comes up to standing up to government initiatives, because we recognize that the government is not our friend, and we recognize that the government is not trying to save our lives. Maybe those people would be alive. Maybe my friends who had miscarriages and my friends who were saying that it was impacting their menstruation until the government was ready to admit that 7 months later. If you had listened to people that were telling you their own experiences, someone I know that went completely blind in one eye because of some weird ocular clots. So don't pretend that's a small thing. I just want to say, I'm happy to accept that you've changed your mind.
Let me respond.
But don't pretend it's a small thing. People died from the vaccine.
Let me respond.
And by the way, I want to be clear for people watching this. He's saying still get it. I'm saying still don't. Just so you can hear a different opinion. Do not allow the government to put that in your arm.
Okay.
God's system works. The government is not fixing you in any regard.
And do you feel the same way about the flu shot?
Yes.
So I just have to, so we don't lose our channel, remind people that the FDA and the CDC says the vaccine is safe and effective. And
they do good work.
And they do great work over
that appeal shit that Bill Gates puts on the fruit now that makes it all rubbery.
And they it doesn't stop the transmission, but it certainly slows it and will keep you from being seriously ill.
No, we don't know what that means.
Hospitalized or dead. Okay, now people like Piers Morgan really piss me off, and I'm glad that you said that to him. Are you still surprised that people like that are, even after they've been proven that they lied about masks, they lied about the origin of the virus, they lied about funding the origin of the virus, they lied about herd immunity, natural immunity, transmission, contraction. There wasn't a thing they lied about the studies. There wasn't a thing they didn't lie about, and yet people like Piers Morgan still cling to that. What do you make of that?
Well, I think it's partially about his power. And so what they do, and I see this all the time, left and right, by the way, where they will be cowards. They will go and they will accept whatever the state says. And then when they feel it's perfectly safe to say something different, right? When people are literally dropping dead in the street from myocarditis, they'll be like, hey, you know what? Actually, maybe we should listen to these people. And then they'll say, I'm sorry, I got this one thing wrong. And it's like, it was just a small thing. It's just a small mea culpa that I had to make. But, the rest of the stuff I said was true. And that's why you have to call these people out. You have to call these people out because they continue to do this and people will continue to watch them, not realizing that they're watching someone who lied to them, who could have done great harm to them because they were unwilling to tell the truth. Listen, I don't mind if the state scares you. I get it. They do some scary things. I just don't need you having a platform. If you genuinely are too much of a coward, if you don't have the spine as a grown man, as Piers is, to tell people the truth, then you don't deserve a platform. That's my viewpoint. You don't deserve a platform because these are people's real lives. And like I said, I lost my grandfather. And many people had this circumstance for whatever reason. People who had a mild form of dementia, they just saw it advance very quickly after getting the vaccine. My grandfather got it because the nurses and doctors told him to, and he was dead within a year. I didn't recognize him months after getting the vaccine. So I will always use my platform to call these cowards out.
Do you think someone messed up and gave Joe Biden the actual vaccine?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So that was those kind of COVID liars. are the most insidious, right? So Chris Cuomo now tries to play both sides of the fence, like saying somehow Joe Rogan was still wrong when he was slandering him and smearing him and telling everybody that ivermectin was horse paste. That's what Chris Cuomo said, and now he's saying no, Joe Rogan still wasn't right, and I was doing the right thing all along. It's mind-boggling. These are so, of course, sociopathic liars like that rise to the top of the media, right? You have a handful of good people sprinkled in among a sea of psychopaths and sociopaths. Would you agree with that?
I so agree. I so agree with that. It's so funny because I was saying this exact same thing, that I've just dealt with so many people in media who behave like sociopaths, and their addiction to feeling the power of telling these lies and then moving along and not being willing to admit that they were wrong. Also, you see later on in that interview where he comes out at me and talks about, you're not a reporter. Like, suddenly, like,
I saw
he's
that.
He's got the degrees. And the funny
You
part
have
is,
a
by the way, I
degree
didn't
too.
say it. Yeah, well, I have more degrees than him, but I didn't say it on his show because I'm not a jerk, right? And I was just enjoying watching him because it was like this. Clearly, I've won this debate. Whenever you start pulling out this is how many degrees I have, the conversation's over, right? And so the nerve of these people to think and to speak down to regular people, the regular people who have good sense, who have good gut instincts and know what they're doing. Trust your gut instincts. Don't trust these people. That's what I tell people. They know nothing more than you know because they went to some college and got a meaningless degree.
Yeah, clearly they're worth something when you hear them talk.
So this idea that you need a journalism degree to do journalism or be a reporter is like saying I needed to get a comedy degree so I could do stand-up comedy. These are one of those things you don't need a degree for. Bill Gates doesn't have a degree. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, he offers
by the way,
journalism.
all of the richest people don't. If you actually go through like the world's richest, it's incredible how many of them don't have degrees. You know why? Because it allows them to think creatively. The longer you're in the system, the more you start thinking like the system. And if you have to think on your feet, you're a little bit more creative and you probably have better instincts because you've dealt with the world in a real capacity. You're not just learning it through a textbook.
I had a good friend who went to Columbia School of Journalism, and I would always tease him. I go, there's two types of people who go to journalism school, dupes and shitty journalists. So, so here's another. Now, I'm going to play this. He was asking you why you haven't tweeted out about enough about the Israel October 7th Hamas attack, right? And so whenever someone confronts us here at this show about, they go, oh, you support Hamas, I say, I don't support Hamas. You know who does support Hamas? Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government, who have been giving them suitcases full of cash for the last 15 to 20 years, at least. So why would they be doing that? We all know why. But let me play this, and this is your response to him.
Now, to be clear, I am consistent on all matters. I do not want America involved whatsoever in anything that is happening in Israel. I don't want my dollars sent over to Israel. We should not be supporting Israel. Obviously, Thomas Massey has done a lot of work showing how it doesn't even make economic sense that we have so much debt and yet we're sending money over to support Israel. And the biggest issue, by the way, that I have with Israel in talking about them being above reproach is the fact that they are supplying the arms to murder Christians. Okay? In Armenia, the oldest Christian country in the world, and yet nobody talks about that. For whatever reason, it seems to be the circumstance that when Jewish people die in Israel, it's wall-to-wall coverage. But when Christians die all over the world, nobody talks about it. Everyone wants to correlate everything to World War II. Everyone wants to talk about Adolf Hitler, and rightfully so, he was a horrific person. But nobody wants to talk about Henryk Yagoda, right? Nobody wants to talk about the Bolsheviks. Nobody wants to talk about the Christian Holocaust. I am tired of the media, exhausted of the media not speaking about what is happening to Christians all around the world. And it is especially horrific while at the exact same time that it is happening, the slaughter of Christians in Armenia, the arms being supplied by Israel, that the media turns the other way and says, oh, okay, but what about what's happening in Israel? So you know what I'm asking for? Actual equality. Okay? Because it seems like this is like a special category, the special relationship that we have. I'm a Christian first, okay? And so my concerns are going to be with what's happening to Christians all around the world because it is us. We are the number one most persecuted religion in the world. And all Christians watching this need to realize the time is now to start speaking up. because we have been silenced about the things that are happening to us for a very long time. And the media is very clearly not our friend. When there is wall-to-wall coverage of Christians being killed in Armenia, Christians being killed in Nigeria, and the treatment of Christians in America and all across the globe today, then you ask me if I will use my platform and I will use my voice to speak about what's happening in Israel. How about that?
So why do you hate Jews? So
it's just funny because this is how the media actually behaves. You say something sensible, and then it's just, well, you hate black people. Well, you hate Jews.
Just because you worship the best Jew who ever lived.
So let me ask you two questions there about that. Tell me what is Yagoda and what happened with the Bolsheviks and the Christians?
Oh, you just casually killed 10 million Christians. It's incredible. People think that the greatest mass murderer was Adolf Hitler. And no, actually, if you want to talk about genocide, the fact that people in America don't know about what the Bolsheviks did to Christians, where did the idea of a concentration camp come from? The Bolsheviks. The reason why we're not allowed to learn about these people, we don't talk about Henry Yagoda, is because he's a Jew. Right. And so it conflicts with the narrative of Jewish people always being the victim in every single circumstance. So we're willing to push away Christian history. We don't talk about Christian history whatsoever because they have this bizarre focus, our classrooms, on training us to have this bizarre allegiance to Israel. And so to suit us, I feel that we are heavily propagandized in the classroom. And the reason why I feel that way is because we spend years talking about the Holocaust, only for me to learn when I'm out of school about a bigger Holocaust that took place at the exact same time. We were locking arms with Stalin. I mean, you read Alexander Solzhenitsyn talking about the gulags and who built those gulag systems, who created those gulag systems. The majority of them, he eventually wrote a book, were Jewish men. And of course, this has not become collective guilt. Doesn't mean all Jews are Bolsheviks and think this way. But the fact that I'm denied the right to talk about my history while you demand I talk about yours and you demand that I worship Israel doesn't fly with me. I'm just sick and tired of the subjugated Christian. I'm sick and tired of the tail in between your leg Christian that is like Israel first, and then I'll get to the New Testament. You know, it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm uncomfortable with it. And that was probably the first time in that entire interview that Piers shut up because he knows I'm right. It's utterly ridiculous to come to a Christian and say, have you used your platform to talk about Israel? Do you think that he would go to a Jewish person and say, have you used your platform to talk about Armenia? And if the answer is no, then why not? It's because what has happened is that it's not an equal system. No, it's not equality. They are treated, Israel as a country is treated with special interests. And I got to say about Israel, just looking at the history there, I mean, this is our greatest ally, as they say. That's the program. This is our greatest ally. I mean, with allies like that, who needs enemies? All right. In terms of the things that they have been involved in historically, no one wants to talk about the USS Liberty. With allies like this, who needs enemies? I am tired of being involved in their crap. I'm America first. I won't apologize for it. I'm Christianity first. I won't apologize for it. And that upsets some people because I guess, how dare she have the audacity? Well, guess what? I have the audacity, folks.
So you're saying that there was a greater Holocaust of Christians that happened, and it was committed by the Bolsheviks, and the leader of them at the time was a Jewish guy.
Well, Henry Yagoda, what really ran the Gulag camp system. So people should read, if you're interested, Alexander Solzhenitsyn talking about how shocking it was to watch the American president linking arms with Stalin, talking about we're putting an end to the Holocaust in World War II. And Stalin was still mass killing Christians in Russia. I mean, it's an absolute nonsense. And you got to take it back all the way. You know, the Bolshevik Revolution happened. They assassinated the Tsar, I think, in 1880. And then by the time they actually properly took over, I think it was around 1910. And so what was going on in Russia at that time was they immediately took over. They started a gulag system, concentration camps, where they were mass drowning Christians in barges. And this information is readily available, and yet you never learn about it. And people don't want to talk about it. It makes them very uncomfortable.
Well, I didn't hear about it until I heard you talk about it.
Yeah, Henry Yagoda, look him up. It's stunning. I mean, he must have killed alone 15 million people.
Candace,
and this is a person that's not even spoken about. And so that's the reason why Piers just goes, okay, yeah, no, okay, let's move on to the next point. So in my viewpoint, the Israeli government has way too much involvement with the American government. And part of that, this program, and you saw this after October 7th, Congress immediately passed that there would be we would be learning about October 7th in schools as if it was like Pearl Harbor right? A day that will live in infamy. Why? This is not my country. That's a nonsense. And if the answer is, because it's a day that should live in infamy, why just Israel? Why just Israel?
Right.
Why not also what's happening in Armenia or happening in Nigeria or happening all over the world? Why not a day that will live in infamy? Russia actually just went through a terror attack, and Russia has a lot of Christians. I'm Christian. So if we can just start drafting over days of terror that happen on the basis of our religion, I'd like to draft what just happened in Russia. I want my kids to learn about that in school.
Go ahead, Kurt.
Hey, so you said the thing about concentration camps. I thought the Cecil Rhodes, Boer War concentration camps came first. Am I wrong about that?
Pardon, could you say the last tidbit?
You thought the Boer War in South Africa when Cecil Rhodes, the architect of apartheid that Israel uses,
what year was that?
Like in 1889 or something, I thought.
It could have been. You might be right. I know that. I think the Gulag system was particularly evil.
Yeah.
So, but you could be right. I wouldn't.
Well, if you
be
read
able to debate
Tragedy
you on
and
that
Hope,
point.
you read Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. They have pictures of it. It looks like Auschwitz. And the Rhodes Scholarship is still available to this day. Clinton, I think Obama was one. We still have stuff in that guy's name. That guy invented that stuff. In fact, his little cadre with Wall Street invented the Bolsheviks and the Nazis, which is kind of interesting.
And it's crazy because so many of those sick, demented communists came over to America after. They were like, this is the why Alexander Solzhenitsyn writes. You had the trials. You had the Nuremberg trials at the end of Nazi Germany. Where were the trials for the Bolsheviks?
Well,
where were the trials for Henryk Yagoda, who was actually ended up being killed because they always end up eating their own? But where were all of these trials for the people that were mass murdering Christians? They killed about 10,000 priests. I mean, locking down churches. And people tell me to go support Zelensky as he's shutting down churches. You want me to support this Bolshevik? I'm not doing it. And so they can't believe it. What the propaganda tells you, he's a good guy. Oh yeah, totally good guy. To suspend elections, shut down churches. That really does sound like we're defending democracy all over the world. Let's get this guy some more money. Yeah, I'd like a pass on that.
Why are you so homophobic? Zelensky's, he's just a nice guy. He likes to dance around in leather hot pants.
Latex.
That's it, latex. Piers Morgan, he challenged you to $100,000. Well, let's play it and we'll get your reaction.
Brigitte Macron, as you know, has a libel trial against Natasha Ray, who made the claims that the French First Lady was born a man called Jean-Michel Trogneux.
So I saw you did a whole thing on Macron's wife was born a man. It's pretty compelling, and it was based on some real reporting. And now he's going to challenge you on that. So that's what this is. So I should have set it up a little better.
It's the least crazy part of their relationship, by the way. That's the least. That's like it helps the story.
That is. Here we go. Let's watch.
Brigitte Macron, as you know, has a libel trial against Natasha Ray, who made the claims that the French First Lady was born a man called Jean-Michel Trogneux. It's due to take place imminently, and we will get to the bottom of this. And I'll bet you, why don't we have like £100,000 bet that it establishes beyond any doubt to a charity of your choice and mine, $100,000, make it dollars, right now, that it is established beyond any doubt that she was born a woman. Do you accept that bet?
So, ladies and gentlemen,
So go ahead and respond. Do you accept that bet?
She's a woman.
More than that. But, yeah, I've put more money on it because I reached out to the journalist, Xavier Poussard, and Piers is just lying. The defamation trial is not against the people who published the documents. Xavier Poussard published it, a 6-part series, and they never sued him for defamation. They got Natasha Ray, one of the investigators who helped him gather the information, on a technicality for libel, a technicality in the form that after everything was published, she did an interview and she misspoke really and said, I would say that these documents are falsified pertaining to Jean-Michel Trogneux's birth certificate. And so they're going after this woman for something that she said on YouTube, not regarding the fact, which it is a fact, that Emmanuel Macron is married to a man who transitioned. I'm all in on this. You read through these documents and you cannot. That's why Pierre says he didn't even read them, because you cannot in good conscience read these documents, and he doesn't even have the stomach to tell that kind of a lie. So instead he has to say, the theory is insane. It's too crazy for me to even read it. Read the documents. They spent 3 years working on this. It is insane. I mean, they have pictures down to the year where Brigitte got the Adam's apple surgery and just wore a scarf right around here for like 8 months straight as a teacher. And like you said, this would be the best part of the relationship, because the truth is that Emmanuel Macron, at best case scenario, was statutorily raped by Brigitte, who was 39 years old at the time that he was 14, and they fell in love.
And actually, she was 49, by the way. She's actually like way older than that.
But actually, she was 49, yeah. But even in the good version, she's 39. But actually, she's 10 years older. I mean, listen, I don't tell you, the French people know this. They have been on fire for me, and they just feel like they are being so remarkably gaslit. Brigitte is a man with a lot of power, by the way. Like, Emmanuel Macron, when he's asked a question, turns to Brigitte, you know? Like, and what's the answer here? Because Brigitte is allegedly the person that's running and is the main power player over there.
Why do you hate the French?
Come on. Because they smell.
No, you're supposed to say, why are you transphobic? Yeah.
So the person who actually did, I got this from your video, by the way, the person who actually did that report, that did that 6-part, 3-year investigation to prove that Macron's wife is a male. Why didn't they go after him? Why aren't they suing that person? And here's what he said. This is what I got. Because by pursuing me, they would allow me to speed up my proceedings against them before the administrative court. I am taking legal action against the French administrations, which wrongfully refused to issue me documents, including identity photos, on the case, in particular, photos of Jean-Michel Trogneux as a young man. So that's about Xavier Prossard, the guy who actually, so you actually talked to him and he gave you this statement, right?
Yeah, I've been speaking with him, and he was just like, basically, they're going after Natasha because then it allows people like Piers to say the journalists are being sued for defamation. And they know that when you're dealing with an overseas report, different language, that's just not going to translate. When I was like, listen, I'm your translator because I am all in on this story. It's the most insane thing I've ever seen. It's a bizarre cover up. And so he gave me all of the information plus the filings and showed me that this woman is not being sued for defamation for saying that Brigitte Macron is a man. And that is what Piers wanted his audience to think. So I am throwing down the gauntlet for him to clarify that statement. I've told him to make 3 basic statements, and he ain't going to do it. I'll tell you that much.
So he basically owes you $100,000.
No, he's going to owe me $150,000 after the episode I dropped today, because I was like, now I'm upping the ante because I know you lied about the defamation claim. So I want you to say on your program what Natasha Ray is being sued for. What was the defamatory statement? Because it was not that Brigitte Macron is a man. That's a truthful statement. So it cannot rise to defamation.
Oh, so that's the old switcheroo. They're saying ivermectin's used for horses. Well, it's also used for humans. Well, we don't tell you that part. He's just telling you that they're being sued for defamation. So that's that means he's implying that it's over the defamation that she's a male, and that's not what she's being sued for.
That is correct.
Do you remember Mary Kay Letourneau with her student? Yes. So imagine if instead of her going to prison, they ruled France. What happened? Do you know?
And I also imagine if Mary Kay Letourneau was born a dude. I don't know.
Do you know what family is Brigitte from? Like, because I saw all kinds of wilds. They're like, oh, he's a Rothschild, but is that even true? Is that just like
no? Those rumors, I looked into those, and I could not confirm that. They're saying that about Emmanuel Macron, like that because he also has a weird background where he was raised by his grandmother. By the way, can we just get some leaders of a country who don't have like shady backgrounds? You know what I mean? Like Barack Obama's mother died young. Bill Clinton's mother died in a car accident. Hillary Clinton was adopted. It's just like, can we just get a normal 2-parent household from like, Michigan? I don't know.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, he was raised by his grandmother, and people think that that's super shady, but that's because now the entire all of France has now gotten in on investigating them, and everyone is just jumping in on it, and they're giving so much information, it's hard to sort through. But I stand by Xavier Poussard's reporting, that initial 6-part series, which determined that Brigitte Macron just did not exist for 30 years, and Jean-Michel did. And now Jean-Michel, who she alleges is her brother, admits is her brother, just doesn't exist. So she won't just go on a walk with him to debunk the story. No, they're just going to make it seem like that would be too hard. Hey, here's my brother. That's actually not me. Because it is you. You're a man.
Why do you hate single moms? So this would be the easiest thing to debunk, as you just pointed out. All she has to do is appear side by side with her brother.
Yep, that's it. That's all it would take, and she won't do it. It's that simple.
Because
Here,
she can't do it.
Side by side with your brother. They're alleging that you became, you were John Michel and you became him. All you got to do is go for a walk in front of reporters and say, yeah, did you see that crazy American girl, Candace? This is my brother. Conspiracy theories are dangerous, yada, yada. They won't do it. They won't do it. It's been going on for years now, okay? It's been going on for years, and they simply will not do it.
I used to think you were a crazy right-winger, just like I'm sure a lot of people thought I was a crazy left-winger. Do you feel like those terms don't? I feel like those terms don't really mean anything anymore, because all the people who claim to be lefties, they've abandoned all their left-wing. They're not for my body, my choice anymore, because that was proven during COVID. It's not your choice; it's the government's choice. They're not anti-war; they're very pro-Ukraine war. They're very what's the other thing? So. There's freedom of speech. They're not for freedom of speech. They're for censorship. So that's the hallmark of authoritarianism and dictators. And so what do you make of the left wing becoming not anymore? And do you think those terms even mean anything?
I don't think the terms mean anything anymore. I think we are going through a very clarifying moment. And I think we're seeing that on the right, where we're recognizing these neocons are behaving like leftists. Do you believe in speech? Do you not believe in speech? And I think at the end of the day, we shouldn't think in terms, it's almost too myopic to think in terms of left and right and Republican and Democrat. And I think that the elites love that. And going back to that, they love a divide. They love us yelling at each other. And I think the truth is that those of us who are willing to pursue truth, we're in the same party. Those of us who believe in what it means to be an American, we believe in free speech, we believe in debate, we believe in the right to be wrong. I mean, these are things that are essential to fight for. So if that means I'm linking arm with someone who's traditionally a Democrat or a leftist, I don't care. Do you care about truth? Do we recognize that this country is in a full decline right now? And do we recognize that we hardly even have national security and national sovereignty, anymore? It's like we've just become a globalist super nation. And I think that is making allies, some strange bedfellows, as one would say, but it's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're breaking outside of these lines.
I mean, when you see people like, I try to tell people that Tucker Carlson did get fired for lying. Right. He got in trouble when he started telling the truth about Syria, Ukraine, Big Pharma, COVID. That was the last straw when he told the truth about Big Pharma. And people don't realize this. They think that he got in trouble for lying about something. And now you see people like you and Julian Assange and Tucker Carlson and me. We're on the same page, which is so very bizarre to me.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. And I think that what we're seeing is that people are following those people. So the corporate system is dying. People have lost faith, and they see what happens. When you get rid of somebody like Tucker and you try to convince us that he's a bad guy, it's just not going to work. Yeah, I'm happy he's independent. I'm happy he's free. This is the best version of Tucker. I'm happy I'm independent. I'm happy that I'm free. I wake up every day and I'm excited and we're having fun because we're able to tackle the stories that we want to tackle without having to think about, I guess, corporate narratives, so to speak. So everything is happening for a reason. I believe God has his hand on us right now, and that in the end, I'm extremely optimistic. I do believe we're going to win. I think we're not even at the beginning. We're sort of at the middle of an awakening.
Why do you hate Jews, and why? What's the big controversy over saying Christ is king? I don't understand. I don't get that. That
was made up out of thin air by Andrew Klavan. No one's ever heard the controversy over Christ is king. And the day I left, I guess he just was sort of like, well, we need to maybe make it seem like she's a bad person. Remember that time she said Christ is king last November? Yeah, that's the narrative. Let's get this girl out of here. Yeah, did you see this tweet she sent last November? And I love it because he was really selling it with his chest. He was like, when you spit that phrase at a Jew. I'm like, what are you talking about? Christ, what for Jew? Secondly, he is king. I mean, what do you want me to tell you?
And shalom.
So yeah, he tried to sell it, and he really brought it to the market, and I don't think the market bought it. And it was just a little petty way to kind of throw some dirt on me on my way out, but I don't care. I could care less. I genuinely wish the guy well.
Okay.
The weird tricks are more creepy, I think.
Well, listen, did your video about Macron's wife, did it get demonetized?
No, so we strangely got kicked out of the chat, which has never happened. Just froze, and we just kind of had to basically not premiere it live, and then we had to go re-upload it and then just like publish it, which was very strange. But I blame Rabbi Shmuley and Emmanuel Macron. I think they're working together. Actually,
he was good friends with Michael Jackson and Oprah.
Yeah,
100%.
Yes. Okay, we have to wrap it up. I really appreciate you coming on. Everybody check out Candace's show on YouTube, which is where I check it out at now. Thank you for coming on very much. I appreciate it.
It was so much fun, guys. See you soon.
Okay,
Thank you, Candace. Bye.
Hey, come see us on tour. I'll be in Davenport, Iowa, Las Vegas, Nevada, Chicago, Illinois, and Grand Rapids, Michigan. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.